Welcome to Qt FasTrack series for API 570 piping inspection code. In-service inspection, rating, repair, and alteration of piping systems.
In this lecture, we will continue discuss clauses 5, and we highlight important information contained items sub-clauses 5.11, pressure testing of piping systems. General pressure tests are not normally conducted as part of a routine inspection. When they are conducted, pressure tests shall be performed in accordance with the requirements of ASME B31.3. When a pressure test is required, it shall be conducted after any heat treatment. Before applying a hydrostatic test, the supporting structures and foundation design should be reviewed by an engineer to ensure that they are suitable for the hydrostatic load. The owner-user is cautioned to avoid exceeding 90% of the specified minimum yield strength for the material at test temperature, and especially for equipment used in elevated temperature. Test fluid should be water, unless there is the possibility of damage due to freezing. Unless there are other adverse effects of water on the piping system, a suitable non-toxic liquid may be used. If the liquid is flammable, its flash point shall be at least 120 degrees Fahrenheit or greater. Consideration shall be given to the effect of the test environment of the test fluid. Piping fabricated of or having components of austenitic stainless steels. A solution made up of potable water with 250 parts per million maximum chloride, sanitized with chlorine or ozone. Deionized, demineralized water or steam condensate having a total chloride concentration, not free chlorine concentration, of less than 50 parts per million. If a pressure test is to be maintained for a period of time, and the test fluid in the system is subject to thermal expansion, precautions shall be taken to avoid pressure build-up beyond that specified. Pneumatic pressure tests. A pneumatic, or hydropneumatic, pressure test may be used when hydrostatic testing is impracticable, because of temperature, structural, or process limitations. However, the potential risks to personnel and property of pneumatic testing shall be considered when carrying out such a test. As a minimum, the inspection precautions contained in ASME B31.3 shall be applied in any pneumatic testing. See ASME PCC2 for precautions on pneumatic pressure testing. Test temperature and brittle fracture considerations. At ambient temperatures, carbon, low alloy, and other ferritic steels may be susceptible to brittle failure. A number of failures have been attributed to brittle fracture of steels that were exposed to temperatures below their transition temperature, and to pressures greater than 25% of the required hydrostatic test pressure, or 8 ksi of stress, whichever is less. The most brittle fractures, however, have occurred on the first application of a high stress level, the first hydrostatic or overload. The potential for a brittle failure shall be evaluated prior to hydrostatic or especially prior to pneumatic testing because are the higher potential energy involved. Special attention should be given when testing low alloy steels, especially 2 1/4 chromium, 1 molybdenum, because of they may be prone to temper embrittlement, or any other metal that may be prone to embrittlement per the damage mechanisms listed in API 571 or high triaxial stresses due to thickness, or geometry considerations. To minimize the risk of brittle fracture during a pressure test, the metal temperature should be maintained at least 30 degrees Fahrenheit above the minimum design metal temperature for piping that are more than 2 inches thick. 10 degrees Fahrenheit above the minimum design metal temperature for piping that have a thickness of 2 inches or less. The test temperature need not exceed 120 degrees Fahrenheit, unless there is information on the brittle characteristics of the piping material indicating a higher test temperature is needed. When hydrotesting solid or clad austenitic stainless steel, the water temperature should not exceed 120 degrees Fahrenheit T, to prevent possible chloride stress corrosion cracking. Pressure testing alternatives. Appropriate NDE shall be specified and conducted when a pressure test is not performed after a major repair or alteration. Substituting NDE procedures for a pressure test after an alteration may be done only after the engineer and inspector have approved. For cases where UT is substituted for radiographic inspection, the user shall specify industry-qualified UT shearwave examiners, or the application of ASME B31 code case 179-181, as applicable, for closure welds that have not been pressure tested, and for welding repairs identified by the engineer or inspector. Review questions. Question number 1. Before applying hydro-test to piping systems, consideration shall be given to.
Answer is C.
Question number 2. When flammable liquid is used for pressure testing, its flash point shall be at least.
Answer is C.
Question number 3. Which of the following materials should be hydrotested with potable water or steam condensate?
Answer is C.
Question number 4. When a piping system is being hydrostatically tested and thermal expansion is possible, precautions should be taken to prevent.
Answer is C.
Question number 5. Substituting NDE procedures for pressure test after an alteration is allowed only after.
Answer is B.
Question number 6. For closure welds that have not been pressure tested, the owner/operator shall specify.
Answer is B. This lecture is prepared by Samir Saad, and this is his profile.